This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Elephant. As a listener of this show, I'm pretty sure you've already embraced technology and practice efficiencies, but sometimes it's hard to find training in those areas. Some of you look to your state societies to get CPE credit, but those tend to be tax or audit focused and, quite frankly, from what I've heard, pretty boring. Thankfully, our friends at Elephant have created education for tech-savvy accountants and bookkeepers like yourself. They offer training on platforms like Xero, QuickBooks, and Zapier, webinars on topics like cryptocurrency and firm marketing, have all-star instructors who not only understand technology, but are using it to run their own practices. And just for you, Elephant has a special offer for Cloud Accounting Podcast listeners. Visit elephanttraining.com/CAP. That's ELEFANT training.com/CAP to receive 50% off your first webinar. Again, that's elephanttraining.com/CAP for 50% off your first webinar. Elephant, building better practices one bite at a time.
Welcome to the Cloud Accounting Podcast, a show for accountants and bookkeepers using cloud technology to make their jobs more strategic and impactful. I'm Blake Oliver.
And I'm David Leary. Blake, we got some mail this week. We can quickly address if you want.
More mail?
I need to find it here. I found it. Open this one up. It is from Hector Garcia. So Hector Garcia is amazed by the Collabor podcast, which is kind of flattering considering he has his own Facebook group teaching people how to record video and record audio. So
I'm just honored that Hector's even listening. So thank you.
I took a picture of the closet in the recording studio that I have. I don't want to deep dive on what we're doing, but if you guys have questions about that, we'll maybe create a little post and test everything that we're doing on Hector's. Hector will have to tweet the link to his Facebook group.
Yeah,
we can get that out.
There's no big secret to our success. I mean, we do have certain microphones we're using and whatnot, but the app that we use is called Zencastr, which is just fantastic. I recommend you check it out. It's cool because it records each track locally on each user's machine. So that way you get super high quality and you don't have issues with lag on the internet. So that's how we're able to interview people all the way in Australia, and it still works.
Plus, I think we've noticed since I moved in the closet, the quality's been up. So that's the tip. Everybody get in the closet to record. It's the way to go. So where have you been up to?
I spent all of last week in Nashville, Tennessee.
Such a great city.
Oh my God, I've never been there before. I was a musician before I became an accountant, and I love music. I have a passion for folk, and I even like country music a little bit. Man, Nashville was amazing. I cannot say enough good things. Every night we went out in Nashville, and of course you go out every night during a conference, and it was live music everywhere. So amazing. We don't even have that in LA. I mean, maybe certain parts, but you have to drive there, right? Nashville, it was like 15 minutes from the conference center.
And did you stay inside the Gaylord Opry Center? It's like a big, huge ecodome.
Yeah, the Gaylord Opryland. You described it very well as a cruise ship that doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, there's no gambling, and there's no. It's like I think it's the world's biggest enclosed space or something. It's pretty amazing. It was
really great venue that Intacct chose, and over 3,000 attendees joined the conference this year, which was 28% over last year, which probably tracks about with the growth of cloud accounting in that space, like mid-sized companies and whatnot. They did have some announcements I'm happy to run through, David.
Before you jump in, just to frame it up, so when you say mid-sized companies, is that 3,000 individual mid-sized companies, or are people kind of bringing their whole teams with them to a conference like this now?
So that included partners, implementers, right? Like my old firm, Armadino, includes attendees, users of Intacct, lots of them. And they tend to bring at least, a few people on the team will come to do training or learn about add-ons. Flowcast is there. All the marketplace partners come. We go because it's a great way to meet people who use Intacct, who are interested in finding applications to integrate with Intacct. We get tons of new business from the conference, and because a lot of people go there and they are already attuned to the idea of integrating apps, which is, for folks who are on QuickBooks Online or on Xero, that is just a way of life at this point. But for mid-sized companies, that's a whole new concept to a lot of them. And so these are the most forward-thinking folks in that space in corporate America.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so what was the big takeaways this time?
So Sage Intacct had about, I think it was 3 or 4 major announcements. I'll go down the list. The first item was Sage Intacct Budgeting and Planning. They now have budgeting and planning integrated with Intacct in a Sage product. You and I have discussed that. That was from their acquisition of Budgeta last year or the year before, I believe. So now it's fully integrated.
That's a fast integration for an acquisition.
So that's nice lightweight functionality. Of course, it's not going to be like one of those full blown FP&A applications like Adaptive Insights, or there's a number of them, right? But it'll solve the needs of most users probably. The big one that I liked was the interactive custom report writer. So this is a module that allows users to build custom reports with hierarchical field selection, drag and drop functionality, and automatic formatting and simple subtotaling. So you can do stuff like pivot tables of your data inside of Intacct without having to export to Excel.
Cool.
I think that's something that lots of QuickBooks and Xero users would love to have as well. That was one of the nice features of one of the desktop products, right? Is the report writer, Advanced Reports.
Advanced Reports, yep.
Yeah. That was nice. So that's pretty cool. Should help folks. And then they also have a new dynamic allocations module. So that's really important for folks like not-for-profits that have to allocate overhead to various projects. It can be really tedious and time-consuming. So now there's a tool to automate those allocations on a monthly basis.
And they can dial that up and down per account as necessary.
Yeah, I think it's like super configurable. And, not just for not-for-profits, but also for anyone who has multiple entities, which is something that tends to be pretty common when you're moving up into ERP like NetSuite or Intacct. You have lots of entities and you need to allocate costs among them. Maybe a cost that is, incurred by one entity on behalf of all the others. So dynamic allocations is a pretty cool feature. Should help save some time, automate some of that.
Got it. Anything else major?
The last one was, it's kind of surprising, but it drew a big applause from the crowd, apparently, was Intacct is building bank reconciliations.
So bank feeds.
Yes, bank feeds. Yep, which haven't existed. And it kind of blew my mind when I got into this space that was something that hadn't yet been automated in the ERP world. But the priority, that has not been where the priority is. So they're finally making a move to help speed that up.
Did they give any insight on how they're doing that? Are they building it from scratch? Or are they using a third-party platform to scrape the bank feeds?
That I do not know, and I would be very interested to find out. So I'm going to dig into that. I'll let you know next week what I find out.
Next week, okay. Or we'll be at QuickBooks Connect next week, so maybe you can tell me in person. That'll be exciting.
Awesome. Yeah. So what's new with you, David?
So there was a news article. You and I were both in the news. So
really together for good reasons?
Well, actually, you weren't in there, but AutoEntry and Flowcast were both in there.
Okay.
And I'm in there because I'm joining AutoEntry.
What? When did this happen?
As of Tuesday, I joined AutoEntry. And so it's just coming out of retirement. It's the right fit for me to jump in and get back into the game, and kind of missed everybody and looking forward to seeing everybody at QuickBooks Connect next week. Well,
that's really exciting. And AutoEntry is like in your backyard, right?
Yeah. So their U.S. offices are in Tucson, Arizona. So that's convenient for me. I don't have to. It's interesting. I'm going into an office instead of working remotely. It's a little bit of a new world for me.
Well, what else is new? So you're at AutoEntry. Did you read any good news this week?
I saw that and I don't know when this survey came out, but I saw that Michelle Long had a blog post about the Intuit 2018 Intuit rate survey. Mm-hmm. So they surveyed, I want to say, just over 1,000 bookkeepers and accountants. I think might have been skewed a little heavy towards QuickBooks Pro Advisors. And a couple interesting takeaways. One was the hourly billing rates. So they've been doing this survey since 2016, and based on the data of the survey, it's saying hourly billing has decreased by 35%, and value pricing has increased by 56% since 2016.
Wow!
Now,
that's significant.
I could definitely believe on the value pricing because that's starting probably from 0 or a very low number, right? Yeah. And I can buy the 56%. But based on like so many people talking about how much they charge for an hour to do X service that I see on the Facebook groups and things, I'm wondering, I find it hard to believe that over 1/3 of everybody now is not billing hourly.
Well, maybe it's a combination. Like maybe they're doing both.
Okay, maybe they're doing both.
Because I know a ton of people like a ton of people say, oh yeah, we do value billing, but then for some stuff we do hourly billing. And I honestly think like I am not a total, you have to go to all value billing type person. I think that for some jobs, it's the right thing. And for some jobs, you really do want to stick with hourly.
Got it. A hybrid approach. Cool.
Yeah. So, it just depends. Like to me, value is when you're guaranteeing an outcome. That's when you do value pricing. And if you're not guaranteeing an outcome, you're just giving somebody a resource, like loaning them your bookkeeper. Hourly billing works well for that.
Got it. One thing that was cool, there's a link to a second Intuit site where it has an interactive chart that lets you it's almost like an interactive infographic, and you can slice and dice the survey data. Mm-hmm. And one of the observations that my takeaway, just kind of poking around in it, is how interesting is the hourly rates that people are billing. So tax returns is the highest. The second highest, which is third-party app consulting. So, hey, I need to help my a brewery client set up EcoSprewmaster. I need to help my lawyer client set up Clio Law Firm software, right? The third-party app consulting is higher than, people are getting a higher hourly rate for that than they are troubleshooting QuickBooks Online.
Wow.
And the lowest, if I'm reading the results correctly, is the bookkeeping. Like hourly rates for bookkeeping are the lowest of all the services you could be providing. So it's kind of more testament to automating your processes, stop doing the bookkeeping work and get into this higher value.
So I'm not able to get in here right now. So tell me, like, just give me an idea. Like, what are the ranges we're talking about? Like, what are people charging for bookkeeping on average?
So, like California, Texas, Florida, some states like that are averaging about $76 for an hourly rate
for bookkeeping.
For bookkeeping,
and then what's the consulting going for?
That's coming in at about 91 for California.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty good.
It's coming in a little bit higher for that. And then when you start getting to third-party app consulting, that's where it's pushing the $95, $96, $97, $100 range. And then tax really jumps up and it is about $130, $150. But it's interesting how consistent that is across the country versus state by state. Some of the other ones vary a lot by state, but taxes is pretty level across the board, across all the states in the survey.
Yeah.
So there's all different ways to play with the data. There's graphs. There's you can drill down and play with the numbers. So it's worth people taking a look at, especially if you're trying to, think about your pricing. Now you just got done with your small business busy seasons. It's probably time to digest and look into some of this information.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that tool. I mean, that report, we didn't have the tool at the time, but that report was hugely helpful to me when I was starting my own business. Hey, I've got a story. This is great. Actually, follow up from Intacct Advantage. It's by Jennifer Warawa. This is called The CPA's First Round Pick, Attracting and Retaining the Next Generation of Accountants. It appeared on the 23rd on Accountex Network, and it is all about how the talent crunch is going to make attracting and retaining accountants a big challenge, which I'm really happy to see such a great article on this topic because I'm very passionate about it. One stat in particular that Jennifer cited that I was not aware of is that 80% of millennials say workplace tech would be a deciding factor when considering a new job. That's from a study by Dell and Intel. 80% of millennials will accept or reject a new job depending on the technology that they get to use at that job.
I can see that. I mean, because I think there's probably enough choice now, right? Where there's enough companies that are using tech efficiently, embracing tech, where you have a choice. I think if you go back a decade ago, not enough people were using it, and you didn't have that power as somebody applying for a job, right? So I buy into that number.
Yeah, and so this is my argument, which is that over the next 10 years, it's going to get harder and harder to find good talent. The way you're going to attract them or retain them is by having modern technology in your accounting team. If you're still on that legacy desktop ERP in 10 years, nobody's going to want to work for you because they're going to hate coming into work, and you're going to make them come into work because they can't work remotely because they're stuck on this desktop ERP system. Another great stat from the article is a McKinsey study in 2008 that found that demand for social and emotional skills such as leadership and communication will rise 24% in the coming years. And so that is a lesson for those folks who are part of the upcoming workforce, for millennials, even for Gen Zers. You can't just focus on accounting technology even. You can't focus on GAAP or your accounting skills. You really need to be developing soft skills, because that's going to be very, very important in the new era of cloud accounting 2.0, as we like to call it. So everyone go check out this article. It's great. And I'll put that in the show notes.
So I have an article. I'm going to put you on the spot because I've read 2 articles covering it. There's a survey, but the gist of it is there's a survey about the dark side of accounting expertise. And they're basically the premise is, and I'll see how you kind of buy into this, but if I have audit experience, if I have accounting background, right, and I'm the CEO of a company, I'm much more prone to possibly figure out how to cook the books, might not be the right word, but kind of play the numbers game a little bit to overstate earnings. Like, I'm just more prone to that because I know all the tricks. What's your opinion? I don't know if you saw these articles, because it was covered in a couple different couple of the different media properties over the week, but I don't know. Have you see any of that? Did you digest that? Maybe if anybody's listening, what's your take on that? I kind of follow the logic on it.
I feel like this is common knowledge, right? Is that if you have a lot of accounting expertise, then if you've done accounting, then you know how you can manipulate earnings and manipulate numbers. And the question is, are you going to do it or not? I think the big problem is that we have such enormous pressure on public companies from Wall Street to meet quarterly earnings expectations that executives feel like they have no choice, right? That they will fail if they don't meet those targets. And so they'll push the envelope or sometimes even break the law. And I just think we need to do something. I don't know what, but we need to do something about the pressure that investors are putting on companies, because that pressure is what directly turns into fraud.
Yeah, you're right. It's probably tied to the pressure. And I saw another article, which I don't think...
Not to say that, that disavow accounting of responsibility. We do have responsibility as professionals and CPAs and whatnot. But again, I think it's, a two-way street.
If the people perform to what they're asked for, right? If people want quarterly results at any cost, somebody's going to give them those results, right? Yeah. So
one suggestion I saw was, let's get rid of quarterly and go to twice a year as they do in other parts of the world.
Maybe somebody will do an interview. Maybe we'll get a little bit more on it. But right now, I think it's people kind of reporting the results of the survey. And I don't see a lot of recommendations coming or opinions about the survey, actually, at this point. It's just a lot of recommendations based off the observations in it.
Hey, David, I've got to jump on a call. So if we probably should wrap things up. If our listeners would like to get in touch with you, well, where should they reach you online? The best thing to do is to come to QuickBooks Connect next week. Yes.
And see me there. We're going to be at the pre-conference party, which is put on by Press Ignition, AutoEntry, T-Sheets. How do we get a hold of you?
If you want to reach me, it's Blake T. Oliver on Twitter.
Awesome. See you next week.
Thanks, David.